welcome to the Kimberley IT podcast, episode 94. Myself, James Kimberley, the founder of Kimberley IT, joined as always with Kyle Heath, the co-founder at Kimberley
Morning.
IT.
Hello.
Hey, guess what? I'm on Chrome 60. I'm back on Chrome 64 rather than 32-bit. So for all our listeners out there, we've spotted some kind of bug that seems to be with Enable, who we use to patch manage computers. And at the weekend, I did a factory reset on my machine, Carl, reinstalled Windows, downloaded Google Chrome 64-bit, and the following day, patch management had gone in there and downgraded it to 32-bit. And I found that out because I couldn't do any fancy backgrounds on the video. Because Google Meet requires 64-bit Chrome to be able to do backgrounds on video calls and stuff like that. And it's an odd one because it keeps happening all the time. And we've sent support requests over to Enable, and they gave us a response back, which sounded reasonable in that they said, "Oh, it's because you've had 32-bit on the machine before. When you change to 64-bit, an old registry key for 32-bit one gets left behind, and the Enable patch manager detects that old registry key and then therefore puts 32-bit back onto your machine." Which clearly isn't the case now. After I've done a Windows reinstall, there's absolutely no way that 32-bit registry key survived a Windows nuke and reinstall. So they've actually replied to my ticket. So I sent a response back to that ticket, and I got an email coming back saying this is an unmonitored email account and it does not reopen your ticket. However, 24 hours later, I actually got a response back to that ticket, even though they don't open it anymore.
Words failed me for trying to do support with people like that. They're all just like it.
So, Carl, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
Yeah, what have you been up to in the last fortnight since the last podcast? Everyone wants to know.
I've been honing my video skills, doing one of our explainer videos like you've done with what is two-factor authentication. I am currently trying to work my way through the history of the Microsoft mouse. And it's been quite fun doing a different style of video. That's a video where I'm going to narrate over generally static images and tell the story of something or the history of something or how something works. And of course, wanting to do the history of the Microsoft mouse, I've come up against copyright issues with photos because I'm looking for photographs of mice from the 80s. And so finding those where you've got the license to use them is quite tricky indeed. But there's been a lot of that amongst other things, but that's been the primary one I've been learning about over the last sort of 2 weeks is doing that.
Yeah, and the other slight problem is that the photos from the 80s, they're not the greatest of resolution. So actually getting them blow up into HD format is tricky. So they're normally, we have to keep them the same size and border them so that they look half decent on the screen.
Yeah, it's not been easy doing that, but it's a fun thing to do. Doing the videos is definitely fun. It's just, of course, making sure you don't run afoul of a copyright infringement on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. But you're putting all the correct, citations in to where you got the videos. I'm
using Creative Commons license ones from Wikipedia Commons, and all you have to do is citate the person in the comments. In the description for YouTube. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, Wikimedia, isn't it? That's where all those pictures come from.
Yeah, because if you just search on Google Images, you get some fantastic pictures, but you don't have the right to use them. They're licensed by the people, and I think a lot of people forget that.
Because there is a filter in Google Search Images where you can look for non-commercial reuse and stuff like that, but you still got to cite the person.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've done. I change it under the tools section, look for the license, use Creative Commons license, and then loads less pictures to go for. But you have to do that because
interesting.
I don't really want to get into the realms of fair use warnings at the start of our videos and stuff.
Interesting question that I've just thought of. So if you do license a photo that is for Creative Commons, not non-commercial, and you put it onto a YouTube video, and then YouTube decides to play adverts in front of it, which they're doing to some of our videos now, because we haven't got enough subscribers yet. So get subscribing. Haven't got enough subscribers yet to actually run videos where we do ads where we do a revenue share. But they're definitely now some of our videos, Google is just sticking adverts in front of them, which they're taking 100% of the cut from.
Yes.
Greedy buggers. So I'm wondering if you did that, had a video of Creative Commons in there that you had no intention of ever running adverts on it, but Google decides to put an advert block in front, that would clearly be infringing it, even though it wasn't your control over Google sticking that advert block in front of the video.
You got to read the license, James. I've read the license for the images that I'm using, and all of them are allowed to use commercially.
Commercial use, yeah.
As long as you haven't adapted the picture or altered or changed the picture in any way. So they have the right for commercial use. But yeah, you got to read the attribution for the license.
So the other thing we've been up to in the last 2 weeks is we've got 2 new clients getting onboarded. One onboarded over the weekend. They're both already users of Google Workspace Vanilla directly from Google with no customizations at all. So they're all Google Workspace by Kimberly IT now. All the security and stuff were on there. So one client I did their first ever backup of their data because they had all their stuff in Google, but it wasn't independently backed up. So that was kind of cool. I like doing that where you see data that's never been backed up before, and you watch it in the backup process go through and then get green ticks that it's successfully backed up, and thinking, okay, well, your business is way more secure than it was an hour ago before we had the backup deployed. And their main problem was that they were a domain name that had a poor reputation. And I actually, do you know my theory behind this, Carl, is I actually think it's because it was it's a UK.com. UK.com,
right?
TLD, and I suspect you'll find there's quite a lot of people who do phishing attacks and all that using UK.com domains to pretend to look like the official domain. So maybe rather than having halifax.co.uk, they've gone and got themselves halifax.uk.com.
Yeah, okay.
And for the people they go after are the people who aren't IT experienced, who are gullible, who will not check things like that. And .uk.com, you're not really going to notice it if you're not looking for it. And if you are looking for it or you're slightly aware, you might not think twice about it because it is UK.com. And I think I reckon the whole of that TLD, top level domain, has probably got a poor reputation if you've got a UK.com. One, it looks ugly anyway to start off with, but 2, I think loads of spammers and phishing attackers and all that will be using those type of domains.
Yeah, it is an interesting top level domain. I've always found it. I don't think it's the prettiest of domain names.
Oh, super ugly.
Yeah, there's something about that domain name that does have association with lesser quality stuff that comes through.
Well, the domain's changed now to a lot nicer one.
Yeah,
and it's got a better reputation immediately in that there's still a bit of problems getting through to Hotmail accounts, but hey, that's Hotmail, and Hotmail's kind of junk. But Gmail with 3.5 billion users, 3.5 billion, they get emails going through to those users without a problem. And because they're a recruitment agency, a lot of their emails will be going to personal email addresses.
Yeah.
So Gmail, they got no problems there. Hotmail, working on it. Microsoft doesn't provide any postmaster tools.
No.
So Google has postmaster tools where you can go in there and you can register your domain there, and then they will check out your domain and check out you've got DKIM, DMARC, and all that stuff set up and working correctly to help boost the reputation of your domain.
Yeah.
But postmaster tools on for Microsoft Outlook and Hotmail addresses and stuff like that is literally a non-interactive website. It's just a page there with a couple of points down the left-hand side and just text, and there's nothing you can do to inform Microsoft that actually, you should let me verify this domain, let me do something to bring the reputation up, and there's nothing there. So you just literally got to wait for that stuff.
Yeah.
I suspect one of the reasons is because they've changed their email addresses recently. There is probably some AI built into Hotmail's spam filters, and all of a sudden it's seeing that Susan Smith is now sending you Susan Smith is now sending you emails from a different email address than they usually do, which would probably kick off phishing AI protection. And that it's like if you send me an email, Kyle, your address is kyle@kimberly.com, but if all of a sudden you started sending me emails from kyle@kimberly.es or whatever, it's going to think, oh, what's going on here? This is the same name but different email address, and it'll be a bit more suspicious about the email. So I figure that's what's going on in Hotmail, and it will just take a bit of time for that to calm down.
Yes. Yeah, it will take a little while.
But so far it's going well, and we got them over to Google Chat because they were using Slack before. And they seem to love Google Chat. They've been chatting to us a lot on that.
Yeah.
and we need to get their training booked in, their complimentary training that every client gets.
Yep, that's right.
And also, they currently have a lot of data on Dropbox for the stuff that is in Google Workspace. It's all on Dropbox. So plan is to get all the Dropbox stuff over to Google Drive, because that makes sense. You're paying for Google Drive. They operate the same, but Google Drive has clearly a better and tighter integration with Google Workspace and your emails. So let's get their data into Google Drive. And the final thing is they're all using Gmail. A couple of the guys were not using Gmail. They're using Mail and Newton Mail.
Yes.
And we'd like to turn those off because they're not as secure as using Gmail directly in the browser. Correct. And I've got to say, they've been great about it. They've had no disagreements. Yeah, we'll do that. No problems. We're happy to do that. You often get it at clients we've had in the past where they go, no, I really don't want to swap email clients, but you have to. But these guys are straight into it and going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can't have those old email clients that are using old protocols and stuff from the yays of the 90s and things like that. It's just it's too risky.
And then you've got you tell us about your client that you're onboarding at the moment. It's taking a bit longer, but let us know about it.
The plank from the shore to the boat of the client is ever extending into the distance as I try to onboard them. But they had to go through the process of saying no to their previous IT provider and giving notice to them. And I'm trying to find out at the moment exactly how that's gone, and then get the necessary details over. So I've dropped them a quick email over this morning just to say, can I have your transfer token? Let's get cracking, and to see how it went with the previous provider. They have signed the agreement, and I just get the fanciful feeling that they're perhaps just a little bit slower at doing things than some people are. Some people like to get on with it. Some people like to take their time. And I think that's what the case of it is. They're sort of taking their time here. Maybe they got a tricky previous provider. I know they weren't having the greatest relationship. They were getting billed a lot. And we have seen it in the past where some providers just basically stick two fingers up to you and go, F you, I'm not helping at all, and lock you out of stuff. And so we don't know what's going on. So we'll find out.
The one other thing that I haven't put in the notes that I'm working on is our standard operating procedures.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I was doing them in Google Sheets, but I've now flicked them to Google Drive, because with Google Drive coming with the new Canvas system and the ability to use the @ symbol to put content and stuff into a document, I actually think it's a much better system to build a knowledge base for our company than using Google Sites. In that Google Sites is fantastic, but it's not as easy or as quick to edit as it is to edit a Google Doc.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what they'll look like when they've got the Canvas styling behind it.
Because I've given you a few sneak previews. I can't wait till Canvas comes out. I can't wait until you've got pageless pages. That'll be brilliant. Pageless pages where you don't have the pagination. You know, the artificial, because on a normal word processor, it's an A4 piece of paper, you see, isn't it, that you're typing on? Yeah. You have the break between them. And with Canvas, it's pageless, so you don't have any of that break or anything like that at all. It's just carries on and just flows, and you can do whatever you like with it.
Wow, that's going to blow some minds of some people.
It actually blew a customer's mind yesterday when I kind of showed them how it worked. So one of our customers got in contact about doing a task system.
Yeah. And
I showed them in Google Calendar. You can now create on an event in Google Calendar. I'm actually going to do a try it now video on this one, Carl. But in a Google event in Google Calendar, you can now click a button to say, take meeting notes.
Yeah.
Those meeting notes will be attached to that calendar event, and they'll also be available to everyone who was in that calendar event.
Yeah.
And it opens a new Google Doc, and straight away it puts in a layout for note taking. So it's got the title in there, the date and time that took place, the participants, the notes that took place, and then it's got a task section built in, and all that stuff. And using the @ command, which we'll come to on a news item a bit later on, you can @ and then tag somebody in. You can put a date in, a due date, and you can do loads and loads of stuff. You can @ to link out to other documents that are inside Google Drive using the new Canvas one. And the guy's mind was blown yesterday, and he can't wait until it comes out on general release to everybody.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many companies are far behind it. I said to you yesterday that my partner Kelly was doing some work yesterday with a fairly large retail organization, and she was having to make the notes from a flip chart into a Word document that was then emailed out to everybody who was at the meeting. Now, Jamboard, These meeting notes, no need, done.
Yeah.
You know, just so far behind.
Now the Jamboard is pricey, but
yes, it is. But
even without the Jamboard, there's a better way of doing it than the Flipboard.
I was merely suggesting at the corporate level, this company is not shy of a few quid. This is a proper footsie company, you know, that can afford a Jamboard.
Yeah.
And so it's just an example of how far behind people are in there about what can be done.
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you, I don't even think you need an assistant when you've got all the technology, the correct technology in place.
Yeah, I know. Maybe she'll get a job assisting people and showing them how to get rid of assistants. That might work.
That's the way to do it. Well, that's what you do. You cannibalize yourself. Steve Jobs did that plenty of times at Apple. Cannibalized existing products like the iPod for the iPhone.
That's it. I'll talk to her about that. How to show businesses how to get rid of their executive assistant via Kimberly IT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So recap of new content. So we actually, my video. So last month, 2 weeks ago, you did a video of how to secure share files in Google Drive in a secure manner using the text messaging, not the text messaging, the code, security code.
Yeah, I showed how to share it with someone who doesn't have a Google account.
Yeah, and I made the same video at the same time as you, unknowing at the time that we were both doing the same video. So my video also went live this week or the week before, and it'd be interesting for people who listen to the podcast, go and watch the two videos and give us a thumbs up to the one you like best, and we can see who has the most thumbs up at the end of the month, Carl. You or mine.
Right. Fair enough.
You did a great video on how to set up dual monitors for the best work experience, because that one had been in production for quite a while, and you needed to add a section to the middle of it. And once you got that done, we now made the video live.
Yeah, because I don't have my monitors at the same level. My left monitor is slightly higher than the right, so I edited in and added a section about off, so that when I drag the mouse across, it doesn't bump into the other screen. It flows. Yeah,
because on the first version, it didn't have that part in, and I went, "Hey, Carl, you probably should add that bit," because I think that's the part people are going to find the most useful of having their script when their screen. Because typically people have a laptop now on the desk, and then they have a desktop monitor, and it's diagonally high, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the final one I did was how to enable offline mode for Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. We have got this one before, but I've turned it into a blog post and stuff like that. And it came about because we had a client who was on a train, and he was having, you know what train Wi-Fi is, junk. And he was having lots of problems, and he hadn't activated offline mode before he went offline. So he didn't really have the files on his machine. So I made that blog, sent it over to him. So next time he goes, he now knows exactly what he needs to do to be able to work offline and make sure he's got the files he wants available offline. Because with Google Drive offline, it's not all your files available offline.
Yeah.
It caches a handful of them on the machine, and it uses a bit of AI to predict which ones you're most likely to want based on what you've recently accessed, what you've recently created. But there's also an option there where you can go to any file and mark that file specifically to always be available offline as well.
Yeah.
So if there's a file that you haven't used for a while, but you know you're going to need, you can mark it offline, and then it has a preview mode inside Google Drive, and it will preview what files you will have access to when you've lost your internet connection, which is actually a hidden switch. You wouldn't know about it unless you knew where to click. So it's in Google Drive, when you turn offline mode on, there's a little tick in the top right-hand corner of Google Drive. But if you click on that tick, then a window appears with the preview mode option. And there's absolutely no way anyone's ever going to know about that unless they're told about it, that thing's there. But really handy, so you know you've got the documents you want when you're away.
Yeah.
So going back to the @ symbol in the news, email is turning 50 years old, Carl.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
It's created by Ray Tomlinson in 1971 over at MIT, and he's hired for ARPANET. And during that time, he came up with the @ symbol in the email address, where the user's login name comes in front of the @ symbol, and the computer host name is on the other side.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he invented email or he invented the @ symbol concept in email. I imagine they both were invented pretty closely, because I don't think email would work without a @ symbol. I can see you're looking him up now, so let me know on that one. And the first successful message traveled 10 feet between computers, which at the time was a technological milestone. It was 10 feet because they did it in the same office, the first email that came through. He doesn't know he can't remember what the text of the first email ever was, but he thinks it was most likely QWERTY up. The top row of your keyboard, and that was sent through. And then 30 years later, well, over 30 years later, a Google engineer, Paul Birchheit, created Gmail, which revolutionized the email system. So it was a free email account, came with 1 gigabyte of storage space, which was 100 times greater than whatever Microsoft Hotmail and the others were Yahoo were offering at the time.
Yeah.
And it's how the @ symbol became much more involved in that. Now the @ symbol does a lot more inside of an email, like where you can @ and then enter the person's name and it automatically gets CC'd in. And again, going back to Google Docs, how the @ symbol is now being used more and more in lots of services. Actually, the @ symbol is more than just email now. You use that @ symbol for a lot of things. The interesting thing about the @ symbol is no one actually knows why it came into existence. They just know that there's shipping records from the 16th century, Dutch shipping records in the 16th century that have the @ symbol in them, but there's absolutely no reason as to why the @ symbol ever came about.
Yeah, I can see that you'd referenced that there. This going back to a long time in history, and it's kind of interesting that he pulled it out of the woodwork for this usage. Perhaps he'd had a look around to think, well, what would be a good symbol to use for that? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
he's dead now, so we can't ask Ray.
No, yeah, exactly. He's gone. He's gone to the email heaven.
He has, and he also, it would appear on Wikipedia, he wasn't a fan of the hyphen. He preferred email as one word, not e-mail. So he said, just drop.
I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, unnecessary hyphens we could do without.
Yeah, I think it's weird. I've not seen anyone write email for hyphen for a long, long time. And if you do, you know to keep well away from them. If someone comes along saying they need help with their email system and they put a hyphen in between the E and the M, it's probably not worth your time. It's going to be horrendous.
Yeah, they're probably a fan of Outlook Express.
Yes. Outlook Express was good at the time, though.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was.
Apart from it would irrecoverably crash, but that's Outlook for you, isn't it?
Outlook Express was from the era when one computer had email in the office and you went to it.
Yeah, the last time I dealt with Outlook Express, I think was a client back in around about 2014.
Gosh, that's a long time to be using it.
Yeah, it was that client over in Stourbridge. They liked making chairs out of air. Then you know what I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, when I first onboarded them, they were still using Outlook Express. And a host of other like Mozilla and all this kind of other stuff, Thunderbird and all that. But Outlook Express was their main one, and that was a nightmare onboarding. Getting the emails out of Outlook Express was pretty much impossible because it wasn't a PST format. I don't think in Outlook Express. It was some weird format. And because in 2014 it was so old, there was no one had a service that would import stuff from that vintage of computing, and getting them used to Gmail was just it was hard work because of using Outlook Express for such a long time. And like you said, they had everyone's emails going into this one Outlook Express. They were working like you would in the early 90s and 80s, where it's just one computer with the email on it.
Yeah.
Talking about old stuff, that's the next story. Actually, it's about retro collectors who are uncovering hoards of old data.
Yeah.
Quite an interesting story. I think this is on Wired.
Yes, it was.
.com. And it's basically I follow a retro computer collector, LGR, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Who goes out, collects them, and then redoes them, refurbishes them, and all that kind of stuff. And there's quite a lot of them on YouTube, and a lot of them. So this is a YouTuber called Seen Moused. He acquired a sought-after specimen of Power Computer PowerWave 604/150, which is a Macintosh clone apparently, and it was sold just over 5 months between 1995 and 1996. And it turned out the first thing he saw on the desktop was a file called infectious diarrhea.
Nice.
He'd inadvertently acquired a former workstation of a medical scientist with its contents fully intact. The hard drive provided candid insight into the former's owner's life. So this is the thing that these retro computer collectors are having. They're collecting these machines and finding old data on there.
Yeah.
And even though the data's old, for example, with that diarrhea one, the guy who owns the computer before is still alive, but his personal data and all that kind of stuff is on there. And this is the problem for retro computing, because it's all about archiving and a history of computing. So there's unique software on that and stuff like that they may want to take a copy, unique drivers you can't get anymore. They want to take a copy.
You can't wipe and reload it.
Yeah, exactly. So what do they do with the data? Reading the story, some people do go and approach the previous owners, but they've had bad experiences of doing that. So a lot of them now don't approach the previous owners. And there's this dilemma they're in of what to do with this old data. Do we delete it, or is it now historically important because it's only available on that computer, on that bit of software, and we don't know if that's available anywhere else? Especially like on a computer like this, it was only available for 5 months. There's probably some unique software on there that you just can't get. It's before the internet, so well, sort of as the internet was just starting, so it's not going to be available online and stuff like that just to download and things like that. So it's an interesting question.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In order to preserve the historical accuracy, you can't wipe or remove the personally identifiable data of people that are still alive. It is an interesting dilemma. I guess we're down to the community doing the right thing. Legally, it probably isn't. They're probably just going to have to keep stum on this one.
Yeah, because that data, even though it's old, might still be relevant, especially in medical condition, because it may not have gone away.
It's almost like in a case where you might inadvertently say something and then someone says, you shouldn't have said that because now I've got to investigate what you said. I have a duty of care now. I heard that, therefore I have to do it.
Yeah.
You might get a lawyer sometimes will tell you, like, don't tell me some things. Okay, don't tell me them, because if I know them, then I've got to do something about them. So just don't tell me.
It's it's like with the companies. If you inform a company that you've got a computer with old data on it, they're going to want that data deleted or back. And they're going to.
I did like the last bit of this article, James, that referenced the security expert Bruce Schneer.
Yeah, and Van der Weel.
Van der Weel, yes, who made an analogy between the way we handle data now and the way the Industrial Revolution handled waste products. And I was actually at the Iron Museum this weekend in Coalbrookdale, which is down the road from me, with the kids. And we were talking there with someone, and they explained how the river here, the River Severn, they just threw everything in it. The slag, the coke, everything. The river's full of it all. They just chucked it all in when they didn't want it. And it's exactly the same thing that these guys are making an analogy to, that we will look back, or someone will look back when we're dead, unless we've got ourselves AI'd by then, and so what the bloody hell were you doing? Chucking all this data around, you maniacs.
Yeah. So yes, it's the way we generate and handle and dispose of data will define us over the next 100 years. And just like we look at the Industrial Revolution and think, what the hell were you thinking? The same thing's going to be happening. Same thing about our data, as you explained. But it's interesting, and it's interesting how valuable these machines are as well. I'm just wondering how much my Amiga 500 is. I've still got the box and everything for it. I imagine it's worth more than I bought it for originally.
I don't even want to list the amount of things, James, since I started working in IT that I've missed. Opportunities that just went by that I didn't see or take on. I mean, we used to have loads of old computers at my previous company. We used to nerdily collect them and stuff, and they all just got thrown away because there was a lot of storage. I think this stuff's popular in America, isn't it? Because Americans tend to keep stuff, and then like Grandad Papa dies, and then someone puts it down the shop, and it's suddenly there. And in the UK, we don't really do that.
The one place that I know, the power station that we have is where one of our clients is based.
Yes.
Not going to name it, but when we've been when they used to use part of the server room, they don't anymore because they're not on servers anymore. But when they were, and we used to go in there, those big old machines they had in there,
yes,
like with the big like buttons that you'd see in like an Evil Genius's layout.
Oh, yeah, they had
and the lights and all that. Yeah,
that were...
big machines in the room. I bet actually they're worth quite a bit now.
Probably.
Because they're easily 30, 40 years old. Not longer than that, maybe 50, 60 years old, these machines in there. And they'll be worth a bit, but getting them out would be hard because I bet they weigh an absolute ton.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with LGR and that guy. I'd love to have a lot of all the nerdy kit he's got, but my brain then goes, well, where would you put all this? There's so much stuff, and it's just not feasible to live my life and do that.
Well, it would be if you had a YouTube channel with that many subscribers, because you don't have enough money to buy a big warehouse to store it all in.
Yes, I would if I was the cream of the crop that rose, and like he's one of the ones.
So come on, everybody, start subscribing to our YouTube channel so we can start retro collecting computer games and get ourselves a little warehouse to store it all in.
Machines, I tell you, James, who's retro collecting? Well, actually, we're going to come on to it in a bit. No, carry on. I'm not going to say it now.
Well, that is that article, so we can move on. Yours is the next article, the unexplained health impacts of wearable tech. I've got myself a
exactly
Fitbit now,
this
by the
point.
way.
Who's retro collecting wearable tech?
Okay, now.
I'm sort of collecting it in that I don't give anything away that I've got. So I've got some of the early Android Wear watches.
Yep.
And I've actually moved off Android Wear for the time being. So the longest device I ever had was the Huawei G Watch, which is Android. I reckon I had that for about 5 years, using that daily for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I recently just got rid of it and got a Fitbit. And then when Google does finally release a Pixel Watch, I'll go back to Wear OS. But yeah, carry on. I am sort of collecting wearable tech.
Well, the wearable tech thing's got pretty big over the last sort of 10 years or so, and it's been quite interesting now that healthcare and medical professionals have kind of started have to take notice of the information that they're getting from these devices. And particularly, it's benefited some doctors in the amount of electrocardiogram information that they can get from patients. The Apple Watch does that feature. It will actually do, it will monitor your heart rate. And if there's an anomaly in the beats per minute, it will do an electrocardiogram to have a look at the actual electrolyte activity of your heart. And doctors have been taking this information, and it's actually helped patients monitor themselves at home. And it's been brought more and more into the ER, as the Americans would say. And it's not one thing that was sort of expected of these types of technologies, that it would actually be beneficial to the health of people, and that doctors and MDs could use this. I also read in the same article that the opposite side of the spectrum occurs, that there's a lot of people who are hyper-focused on the information that they get from these watches, and it's not always that helpful. Particularly the sleep section, particularly doesn't seem to be very accurate in how it monitors sleep. None of these things are very good at actually understanding what we're doing while we're asleep.
I've got 2 sleep devices now, because I've got the Nest Hub 2, which has sleep awareness on it, and I have that at the side of my bed. And I've also got the Fitbit.
Yeah.
I should check to see if they say similar things. But the Fitbit does give me more information, because it tells me how long I've been in rapid eye movement, if I've been in deep sleep, light sleep, and all that. While the Google one just tells me, yeah, you've been asleep, and you woke up that point of time, and then you went back to sleep and stuff like that. I should compare those two. But from what I've heard, that the sensors are pretty decent. It's just the only reason you can't be 100% sure is because none of them in America want to do FDA approval, because that just takes a long time to get that approval.
Yeah.
So that's why they always say that you shouldn't rely on the technology as a health guide. But I have read articles where health professionals have compared the Apple Watch with health devices, and they've been relatively close on the results, especially on like heart monitoring, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they've definitely improved significantly, and there's the heads up for you people now. It's probably not too late if you want to start collecting something. Get into collecting fit wearables and health wearables. There's only about 10 years of them, so you've got a good chance of getting a lot of it.
Getting the first gen versions, and then you've got another. Have you finished on that story, or you want to go on to the next?
Yeah. There wasn't a fat load to that. I mentioned it because I knew that you got a Fitbit to go with your Pixel. You see,
that's quite a term there, fat load. Talking about healthcare as well.
Yes. So,
throwing that in well nicely. So the next one is Google giving Android on tablets another shot.
Yes. Interesting stuff around the Android operating system number 12 on tablets.
Yeah.
We suspect there's going to be a folding phone coming from Google that's going to run Android 12. And for a long time, and you said it yesterday to a client, Android tablets haven't really been on par with the iPad. They're not always that great. And this may be suggesting that Android are trying to push back now against Apple a little bit into that market as well. And then we may see some improved tablets coming out. Now, I'm not a huge fan of a tablet. I think I got the first iPad Gen 1 when it came out. I was quite excited. I bought it when I was on holiday in New York. And then I just went, I don't really get this thing. It's just heavy. That's all my memories of them are. They're just a bit too big and a bit too heavy. And they're not big enough to do other stuff on. They're just this thing that I give to, the best one I can suggest is the Amazon Fire tablet. That seems to be the most practical Amazon tablet ever, because my kids can watch something safely on it. That's about it.
Yep.
But this piqued interest in that, are Google going to push back against Apple and start to bring a better tablet to market? That's going to be, and will this, is this going to tie in with this folding phone?
I think it's all about the folding phone. I don't think Google has any interest in tablets. I don't think tablets is a very big market, to be fair. And especially once a folding phone comes out, because you had remember for a while you had tablets, those really ginormous phones that you couldn't work out they were a small tablet or a phone, and the phablets were never really went anywhere. The only tablet I think Google ever had any bit of success was the Nexus 5. Was it Nexus 5? Was that the phone? It was a Nexus tablet. I'm pretty sure it was the Nexus 5, and it was a small like A5 sized tablet. People love those. Delivery drivers and all that kind of stuff love them for in their vans and all that kind of stuff, being able to access Google Workspace. And then, but again, it was such a small market, they never went any further on tablets. The last one they ever made was the Pixel C, which is convertible, which has a keyboard that clips onto it and stuff like that, which is what I've got. I've got the Pixel C, which I now fits perfectly on my cross trainer. I've had to wait 5 years, but it came out in 2015 and I didn't use it for 5 years because I had no use for it at all. And now it fits perfectly on my cross trainer in 2021. So that's where it's rested now, and I watch YouTube on it. But going back to tablets, the market's tiny, and I think it's foldable phones, and that's what all Android 12L is about, is making Android work nicely on foldable phones. Clearly, because 12L is coming about 6 months after Android 12 has. It's the first time in many years that they've done a mid-cycle update, which suggests very highly that the Pixel foldable phone is going to be coming out around about the same time. And I'm very tempted with foldable phones, like that Samsung, the latest one, the Fold 3, I think it is, they're on now. I was that close to buying it. I actually had it in a basket on Samsung's website, and I've got to wait. I've got to hold off for 3 weeks just to see what the Pixel 6 Pro is, which I got in the end. But I still would like a foldable.
How much are they? Like £1,000 or something? Are they more?
Yeah, the Samsung one, I think it's about 1,800 fully spec.
Okay, so it's big money at the moment for those.
Yeah, the reason that I held off in the end getting the Fold 3 was it comes with a stylus, but there's nowhere to park the stylus. So like typically in Samsung's Note, Galaxy Note and stuff like that, you can slide the Samsung into it, slide the stylus into it. But on the Fold 3, it doesn't have that ability. So you've got to buy a case as well, just to hold the stylus. Yeah. But if a Pixel Fold comes out and it has a stylus and a place to park it, this 6 Pro might have its shortest life ever with me as its owner.
Why do you want to fold your phone?
Because of the space you've got when you open it up. It's just incredible. You just get so much more space to do things and work on it and stuff like that. It's just totally and utterly different experience. I'm
thinking when you send a link for me to collaborate on a Google Doc with you, it isn't great on my phone. It's a little cramped. I could see that totally working. Double it up, that works.
Bigger videos, you can see more of it. You're watching Netflix, YouTube, stuff like that. You can see more content on the screen. Just more content
and stuff. That to me doesn't impact me too much.
I watch stuff more on my phone than the TV, really. Like if I'm lying in bed, I'm far more likely just to open my phone and watch something on that than I am to put it on the TV in the bedroom.
So I don't have a TV in the bedroom. We don't have any of them.
But it's just the productivity and stuff like that. You've got split screen apps as well. So, for example, if someone sends me an email, can you meet up on this date? I can have Gmail on that side, Google Calendar on the other side, and I can just get it all sorted.
Okay, all right. I get you. I'm thinking about it.
Highly recommend.
Banking at one side, email with sort code on other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Exactly. I recommend watching Mr. Mobile, who's one of my favorite reviewers on YouTube, and his reviews on the latest Samsung and basically how foldable phones changed his life. And for the pretty much ever since foldable phones have come out, that's what he's been using rather than traditional slabs.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah. He's a good. All right. I'm gonna have a look at that then.
So that's our news items for the fortnight.
You know what, James? I found the last 2 weeks really hard to find any interesting news because I think Google Pixel 6, Apple 13, do you know that Zuckerberg looks like a Muppet to me? And I don't mean that in a rude way. I think it actually looks like a Jim Henson puppet. Don't you think so? He just looks like that.
Now you mentioned it. Yeah, I can visualize it.
Yeah. Because of those three things, there's been no decent news. It's all been blanketed out by those things.
Talking about that metaverse, I think it's bollocks. I don't think anyone wants to go and live in a virtual world.
Have you seen the videos between him and Nick Clegg?
And all that stuff you see is also CGI. None of that exists. It's just vaporware at the moment. There's nothing there.
I don't like the idea of it whatsoever. You know, Facebook are already today I read a news article that suggests they wanted to target 6-year-olds. The last people we want running this second world metaverse is that lot. They're terrible. Facebook are awful.
Well, Meta and its apps have got problems because younger people aren't going on Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that. Especially Facebook, they're completely losing. Young generation just don't join Facebook at all. Instagram, they're going off Instagram, not using it as much and stuff like that. So, Meta, the new company, has got big problems of user retention now, finally.
Yeah, I fancied for a while when people said, "Oh, social media will last forever." I fancy that it will, in a sense, but this will be its great sort of peak boom period, and then it will drop off as younger people go, "I don't like what it's about. I don't like it all the negative aspects it caused."
It's not even younger people, because I remember when Facebook first came out, it was kind of fun and stuff like that when I was younger. Anyway, you're probably still quite old then, but when I was younger. But either way, I don't go on Facebook much now. I post photos on there so close friends can see stuff, but I don't go on it anywhere near like I used to. And likewise with Instagram, you're far more active on Instagram than I am. I have Instagram there because it's all part of our marketing. People want to know about us before they sign up and stuff like that. So I put things on there, but I know you'll post stuff on Instagram almost daily. Well, for me, it's like once a week at most.
It's at most, funny pictures of took all me and the family. It's no more to it than that. And I barely scroll. Like, I look at 1 or 2 people's and then I'm done. I might scroll 4 pictures and then that's it. I've really got very little interest in it.
So this is the other problem Meta's got. Even with people who are already on there, we're using it less as well. So it's not just they can't attract younger generation. When Facebook came out, I would have been, how long has Facebook been around for? 17 years or something, isn't it? Yeah, so 2006. I would have been 23 or something like that, and I was prime target for that because it was the first thing that ever came out, and you saw your old school friends that you lost contact with and all that kind of stuff. And then you realize they're still tossers, so you block them anyway. But over time I use it less and less and less. I just don't find it interesting or anything useful posted on it at all. Just shit that I'm not interested in, like. But what problem is when I do scroll that news feed, like all of a sudden I've now got very interested in hoof cleaning on horses, where they take the shoe horse off, they re-hoof the horse. It's kind of interesting because it's like a massive nail they cut. But I would never got an interest in that actually if it hadn't been for one of it appearing in my news feed. I thought, okay, I'll maybe watch this. It kind of looks it's kind of relaxing watching it, seeing a horse getting re-hooved. But now I keep getting them all the time now.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Zuckerberg is clutching at straws here.
Yeah.
That he probably can personally, he's left the people running Facebook that going, it's dead. I know it's dead. I'm just not going to say it. There's no way that's coming back. I need some other shit now because that's finished. And will we see Google? Because Google and Facebook are basically what was the Randolph Hearst of the 1920s. They're just they're just media moguls and they sell advertising. Facebook's going to die. Will Google be the winner because it just still sells revenue from pay-per-click and search, and that's kind of not changing.
Yeah, that's not changing at all. And Google's so big, it has so many different products that even when regulators do restrict it on certain things, it's okay because it can collect the data from a different way, from one of its other products that it can. That's got billions of users on anyway, so it doesn't really affect Google that much. Again, they've got no competition either. It's not like you can say the smaller search engines like DuckDuckGo or anything like that, or any competition to Google. So there's no competition out there. You've got Bing, but Microsoft doesn't do anything with Bing. They literally just copy what Google does. They do nothing innovative ever comes on Bing first. That's kind of given up. I guess the only advantage they got is Windows for Bing, in that it forces you to use Bing a lot. But apart from that, Google hasn't really got any competitors whatsoever, and it's not in the social market. It doesn't. It's Google Plus flopped, so it doesn't. It's not involved in social or anything like that.
And that might be to its benefit.
Yeah, it could be now. At the time, they were very concerned that Facebook was going to destroy them, hence they brought Google Plus out, which flopped, which has actually been a benefit for them in the end.
Facebook has destroyed itself.
Yeah,
in its own methods of what it does.
The news feed destroyed its product. newsfeed was so successful at the start, but then it started, the algorithms and how they work started bringing in content that people don't want or doesn't make them feel happy and stuff like that, and the newsfeed destroyed that product.
And the fact that it dealt with its own internal investigations as to the quality of its own products, like the tobacco companies did by using PR to shut it out, and then they get whistleblown and it gets shown that they're basically doing the same as the tobacco barons, and eventually that ends up where they are. Their products are completely regulated out of existence, and now they're the biggest sole investor in vaping. You know, they've gone alternative market. So yeah, so they don't like the Meta thing, and Zuckerberg looks like a muppet. Have a look at him; he really does.
So after insulting one of the richest men in the world, we'll move on to our recommendations.
Yes.
So mine's a BBC podcast. It's called Sports Strangest Crimes. It's been out for quite a while, actually. I'm listening to the first season, which is about a guy called Alan Stamford, who in the 2008's time, he did a 2020 cricket match for England versus the Stamford Superstars. And whichever team won, there's 20 million up for grabs. Each player would ultimately get £1 million on the winning side. So everyone would become a million. The other team would get nothing at all. But it turns out that Alan Stamford has a very interesting backstory. Hence, it's called the Sports' Strangest Crimes.
Okay.
So if you want to listen to that story, go and listen to the podcast, and you'll find out more about Alan Stamford and what happened to him in the end, and where he got his money from, and all that kind of stuff. And then season 2, which I haven't started yet, is about a horse that got kidnapped in the middle of the night, and its name was Sugar, which was a Grand National winner.
Yes.
So that's what season 2's about.
I know where he is,
and it's all about it.
He's on the same island as Bruce Lee's on as well.
I'll find out when I don't want any spoilers.
No, it's not true, James. Shergar, you don't remember Shergar because you're young and I'm old. But when I was a kid, Shergar was stolen. He was like the greatest horse ever. And it was like, who stole Shergar? No one ever knows. Where's Lord Lucan? Where's Bruce Lee?
I know a bit about the story, and I think the IRA is related to it.
Yes, there's IRA involvement in it, yeah.
But I don't know much details about it, so I'm looking forward to that one. But I'm not even into cricket, but this one about cricket and Alan Stamford is really interesting, and I really recommend this podcast. The thing is, it looks like they do one season per year. So this is from based on it. The first season came out in 2020, and the current season is about the horse in 2021. So I suspect there might be another season next year. But it's a really good podcast to start listening to it, and if they get more people listening to it, I imagine they're more likely to have a new season coming out.
Okay, yeah. My one, audiobook. I've paused my Audible subscription for a bit, which I do like about Audible, that you can do that. You can just pause it for a while and not pay anything. I like that about them. And I've gone for a book about COVID-19 called Vaccine, which is an Amazon original book that's on there. And it's fascinating already. I've only listened to the first 2 chapters, and I already now know about 2 people who they live in Germany, and they had come from a Turkish background, and they were second-generation immigrants to Germany, who are the people that created the Pfizer mRNA vaccine and the story of how they started. They'd already sold their company for billions before they started, but they're what you'd expect. They are all about the learning. Like, they didn't live a lavish lifestyle. They were just obsessed with knowledge. And it was fascinating already, James, to learn about how the guy in Germany was just like, this is going to go global. And people are like, nah, it's not. And he's like, it totally is. And looking at the data and stuff, it's really interesting already. And we got lucky. I'm telling you, you're just like, crikey. If it wasn't for these 2 people and their research projects and stuff, we could be in a right mess.
Well, sort of, yeah. It's also to do with the fact that if it happened 10 years earlier, where technology wasn't about to be able to communicate and stuff like that, it'd be in a big mess too. So the timing was pretty much.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not. It's this like the perfect storm, and you can already get a feel for like how this pandemic just happened to luckily drop at the right time for us to kind of deal with it. But yeah, Vaccine on Audible, really good so far.
Well, that's it for this fortnight, and back in 2 weeks' time.
Yes. Yeah.
So don't forget to subscribe, like, and subscribe to the podcast as well as the YouTube channel.
Yes, and, please keep subscribing to the YouTube channel for us, please.
Because the closer we get to 1,000 subscribers, the closer we can get to dropping some adverts on you as well. So It works well for us. Not as good for you guys who are listening.
We're not going to lie about it.
Yeah, we just want the cash. That's all we're doing it for.
We do want some cash, please.
Anyway, thank you. We'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.